Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Give me 1 second. Well, it didn't work. Well, good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday, November 10th. My name is Deanne Shaw, and welcome to this meeting of the Aberdeen City Council, where we start with our Committee of the Whole meeting. It is 7:15, and I will call our meeting to order, and we'll start with the roll call.
Thank you. Andrews?
Here.
Ellis?
Yes, good evening.
Thank you. Francie?
Here.
Gordon?
Here.
Kochman?
Here.
Mackey?
Here.
Meskis?
Present.
Richrod?
Here.
Ross? Shaw?
Here.
Short?
Here.
Taylor?
Here.
Shave?
Here.
Thank you.
So tonight we do have a guest speaker. It is a long-standing tradition in Aberdeen that we annually hear from Greater Grays Harbor. And tonight I would like to welcome Lynette Buffington, Greater Grays Harbor's, is it CEO, Lynette? And did you bring any staff with you, or are you flying solo?
Me and my plants right now in my office.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, welcome. We look forward to hearing what you can share with us about your year and what you are looking for in the next year.
Sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and share screen. I will ask you guys to confirm I'm sharing the right screen here in a second. Do you see a PowerPoint deck?
Yep.
Okay, great. I'm going to go to the slideshow. Right. All right, I'm hoping you see a full screen and not a presenter version. Wonderful.
Full
All right, well, it's
screen.
good. Yeah, it's good to see all of you. It's been a year since I was visiting last, and sadly, I'm still in the Zoom world. So most of my relationships with people in town are virtual. I've had the pleasure of meeting 1 or 2 of you in person, but that's been about it. I hope that changes very soon. As President Shaw indicated, we present to you annually on our municipal services agreement, and we break down that municipal services agreement into these 6 areas. I recognize my time is shorter tonight, so I'm going to move at a clip. If you have questions, please let me know. But these are the 6 areas in which we have this agreement, and that contract has come across to the city of Aberdeen for that, and these are the work areas. So I always like to start with a bit of a snapshot of each city I present to. In the city of Aberdeen, 132 businesses are paying members of Greater Grays Harbor. And you'll notice me differentiate between paying members and courtesy members a couple times in the presentation, and there's importance to that, I promise. And then we did one-on-one business assistance with 34 businesses. So that's kind of case management, helping folks out. In terms of business recruitment, there was one project that would have landed in Aberdeen city limits. The jobs represented on that were unknown, were not disclosed, but the capital expenditure was 10 million on that. And then the businesses receiving online benefits is 205. And you'll notice that's the different, 205 is a heck of a lot more than 132. And that is because back in spring of 2020, this organization started recognizing in the pandemic that so many businesses in our community, in particular in the hospitality industry, didn't have an online presence. So we created complimentary listings on our website directory. So there are 205 total businesses in the Aberdeen footprint that are getting benefits. Those businesses have appeared close to 26,000 times. Those individual businesses have been seen over 7,000 times. And the businesses have what we call referrals, meaning that the person hunting and searching clicked on the individual page or clicked out to the website, the business's hosted website 250 times. And if a profile also had a map added to it, they clicked on the map 25 times. So that's a quick snapshot of Aberdeen. The rest I go into will be a little bit more generalized to the county. These are the 4 areas we were working in this past year. The 4 focus areas haven't changed a heck of a lot, with COVID always winning the race and the priorities and how we structure our resources. So within COVID, it was a lot of business assistance, small business grants, and promoting relief programs and business impact. Overall, across the county, we assisted 96 businesses one-on-one, everything from COVID relief options. And the time band I'm talking about here is the past 12 months, basically. The 96 businesses navigating COVID relief because it was a fire hose to drink from, completing applications because none of those processes were fun or easy. And then I think most of you know Greater Grays Harbor spent a decent amount of time when the shops at Riverside closed, providing resource roundtables and working with many of those folks to help them get the business resources to relocate. And then of course, general business consultation. People opened businesses, people expanded all during that time. No surprise that the bulk of our support was provided to the hospitality and retail sectors, with real estate and entertainment being 3 and 4 on that. These are the areas in which we spent the most time doing business assistance. And I should go back one slide here. This little note on the bottom, the mall closure and COVID assistance, we went to group sessions for business assistance when one-on-one wasn't sustainable because of the volume of questions that were coming in and the help that was needed. And so when we talk to business grants, Greater Grays Harbor distributed through our office over $600,000 in business grants. When I saw you last year, we were probably working on Working Washington 2, and we were able to fund 57 small businesses. In November, I worked with both Elma and Hoquim with their CARES dollars, and we pushed out $80,000 between the 2 of them in small business grants. And then back in the spring, you all agreed to fund $90,000 of grants out to the business community as a reaction to that rollback of opening restrictions. So we administrated those for you. And as you know, that coincided just by coincidence with the mall closure. And so some of those folks were able to obtain those grants. Right now, actively, and I need your help on this, we have a micro enterprise grant that is live, working with businesses of 5 employees or less, to include some dollars designated for childcare providers. So think about those in-home providers. I have money to give out, and as of a release we just sent within the last hour or so, that $5,000 amount that I was pushing out in grants has now been increased to $10,000. So I have $10,000 to give out in tandem with business coaching. So the business will get the dollars, but also get some business coaching. That is on our website. Real quick snapshot of some of the COVID relief efforts and how they landed in the county. This is in our EVI report, which is also hosted on our website. On the left is what the SBA funded. These are the amount of dollars in PPP and EIDL that landed in the county. And we did a large volume of promotion and assistance and resource referrals on that one. Then on the right is a breakdown of how CARES broke down county, local cities, and other dollars. We did some surveys. What's relevant here, even though this survey is almost 12 months old, is takeaway number 4. Businesses are still experiencing increased expenses related to the pandemic, be it additional cleaning costs, buying power, like our daycares. I spoke to some daycares. They don't have the buying power for PPE and they're getting gouged. So again, there's still increased expenses for these businesses. Part 2, in developing our economy, and these are our 4 work areas: business retention and expansion, entrepreneurial development, business attraction and tourism development. Despite everything we worked against this year with sites being closed, businesses being closed, we were able to get out and visit 29 plus businesses. We definitely want to beat that this next year. If you know of a business that is hitting some roadblocks or about to expand or considering relocating, please have them call me directly or call me and I'll give me their number and I'll go out and visit them. We want to support them. We want to show up and plug in resources to assist them. And then, of course, entrepreneurial development. We couldn't do anything in person, but we did different things on Zoom and Facebook Live. This is, again, a spot where I talk about the shops at Riverside. I think we did at least 4 weeks of roundtables with the tenants and business resources. We might have done a little bit more than that, but that was really, really valuable, I think, to everybody. And I definitely learned a lot during that as well. Business attraction, we work with the Department of Commerce on site selectors, shopping around locations to site their businesses or their clients. We work heavily with the Department of Commerce, the Port of Grays Harbor and Grays Harbor PUD as our most common partners in those discussions. In the past 12 months, we've been involved in 24 recruitment projects, a total capital expenditure of $5.6 billion and jobs represented at 3,800. And again, we're responding to site selectors, and these are the values of the projects that they are shopping around. 2 projects that are active that I'm at liberty to speak about would be Project GelX. It is still an active project. It's been around for a while, but that's a disposable glove manufacturer. And Project PNWRE, a clean energy pellet producer. On top of what comes in from commerce, we're trying to focus on these, we're trying to find solutions to these 3 things: affordable housing or housing affordability and diversity, supply chain issues, especially for our hospitality industry, and then workforce education, marrying public and private partnerships to see if we can develop a pipeline for the skills that our local employers need. And while we are not the Visitor Information Center or funded by the county, we recognize that tourism is a primary industry in our county. So therefore our commercial enterprises should be connected to our tourists. And so we've developed tourism assets to include the whole suite that is Discover Grays Harbor, Instagram, Facebook, and a visit and live section on our website. So if this is our website, I'm going to draw your attention to a project this year, but while I have you, I'm going to point out a couple other things. First of all, that grant I talked about is clicked up here, COVID-19 resources on the far right. And then we have an events calendar that anybody in the community can put their event on, so please do. But I'm going to talk about our business directory. That business directory, as I mentioned, usually only includes paid members of the organization. But in 2021, we focused on adding all those hospitality industry folks so they can have an online presence. We have over 200 non-members listed on our online directory. Some of this work was supported by funding from the LTAC for the county. It's incredible. It's increased the visibility of our businesses in the community. I'll give you some of those stats here. So the business listing views, 76,000 views in the last 12 months. That's a 90% growth over 2020. Business referrals, that's clicking out to a business, 3,500, 95% growth over 2020. So it's done really well for folks. Frequently, it is the listing on our directory is one of the first searches hits that shows up. It's usually pretty early in that. Promoting business, we want to elevate new members. We want to have some events, hopefully, and get those business milestones out there. So when someone joins the organization, we want to make sure they have marketing assets to take forward that costs them nothing. So we create an original content blog and a Facebook post that we boost for all new members. This is one of your new businesses in Aberdeen, Finish Line car detailing over there in South Aberdeen. But what happens to these businesses is they can hold on to this content and share it as much as they want. We've done the creation for them. We did a lot of events, none of them in person, sadly, but we had a really good run of events throughout the year. A lot of these will be back and in person in 2022. As city council members, I want to draw your attention to the middle of the page to weekly legislative affairs briefings. All members of the organization and public officials are welcome to come to that. It's every Wednesday during legislative session at 7:30 in the morning on Zoom. So don't have to turn your camera on. You could be making your coffee, but we have briefings from our legislators, congressional offices, and a variety of associations as well. And it was well attended and well participated in. So that invite is out there. And then I ask that you put January 7th on your calendar. That will be the legislative send off for 2022. Business milestones, or some people call them ribbon cuttings. I say I'll promote anything. If you move the front door, painted the front door, got a new piece of equipment that's really unique to your industry, call us. We'll help celebrate that. We also like to partner with the Downtown Aberdeen Association on those that for those ribbon cuttings that happen in the footprint. And the fourth area is investing in tomorrow's leaders, Leadership Grays Harbor and the Greater Grays Harbor Foundation. Leadership Grays Harbor, I think many of you know about it. It's a leadership principles program. In 2020, they had to go from in-person to virtual. So 2021, we committed to virtual. It went very, very well. The instructor who's contracted with the college is quite dynamic and does a good job. The biggest win out of the 2021 cohort was it was the broadest geographic representation throughout the county in the history of the program. In 2022, we will stay online, but we will have 2 civic tours throughout the course of the class. So we've added some class dates, but those will be in the community, looking at our economic engines, meeting with local leaders, and getting a little bit more hands-on experience. So we're really excited about that. And then the Greater Grays Harbor Foundation, we created a 501c3, and the purpose of that, and we're getting our legs underneath us to be responsive, is so that we can accept public or private dollars to focus on workforce development and partner with either our school, our education partners or other employers to develop workforce development programs. And having the C3 built, it allows us to be responsive to that. And of course, we're a membership organization. We did have a small dip in membership related to the pandemic. We did get some dollars from REG down at the port for member dues relief fund. So if any member is struggling to pay their dues and wants to ensure that they still have a web listing or engagement with the organization, they can apply for dues relief. It's a simple form to fill out, and we can help supplement that payment so you don't have an interruption in your membership. As I mentioned, we are frequently the only web-based presence for many businesses in the community, and we're happy to serve that purpose and that role for so many. In 2022, we're just going to make sure our members understand what they have at their fingertips. Back on that slide that I showed you, our homepage, the directory, the calendar was on there, the directory is on there, but members can post jobs, they can post press releases, and they can also post membership deals and coupons to attract folks to come on in. And for 2022, of course, we are going to continue to engage in economic development and really start outbound promotion of the community to site selectors. Of course, we're here to have conversations on economic relief dollars and those big dollars coming down from the feds, and then looking at how we can support meaningful workforce development. We're going to build on our government affairs efforts and see if we can really create a regional voice on government affairs. And if you've been around a while, there was an economic development district that had kind of petered out over the years, and we are relaunching that. There's an active application in with the EDA. Then, of course, we will always advocate for infrastructure investment in Grays Harbor County. That is my quick as I can go. I welcome any questions.
So, Lynette, I'll just say you're a rock star. That was wonderful. That was do any council members have any questions for our CEO of Greater Grays Harbor? Councilmember Ellis.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for the presentation, Lynette. So you've been talking to a number of, it sounds like really big businesses who have thought about moving to Grays Harbor County.
Mhm.
So far, there are 2 commitments or 2 that are public. Are there any future employers in the wings that we might be able to look forward to?
I think there are some, I'm bound to not talk too much about some things, and then some things are purposely kept from me. Projects come into me from Commerce with some silly code name, and I don't know who they are, and we're sending them back responses, kind of a profile of our community to see if we're a fit. So the 2 that I publicly told you about were the ones that I can talk about that are actively in play. And I can tell you there's a handful of other projects that we've responded to, and it's like dating, like we gave them our best and they're looking at a lot of communities and seeing how we compete. And then if we move to the next step, then we know, hey, we've, the first choice for prom. And then we kind of start moving through that relationship. But we are actively responding to inbound inquiries on citing businesses here.
Well, that's exciting
Yeah.
that we're in the running anyway.
Yeah, and I will say, it's interesting, this yesterday a memory popped up for me that I thought this time of year, we all thought it was going to be very quiet last year on inbound, and it picked up. And I will say that we're back to that experience again this year, where projects are coming in from commerce. We're asked to respond on a very short turnaround, and we've had to pick up on that pace as well.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Any other
Thank
questions?
you. Does anyone else have any questions? Well, thank you very much. We look forward to working with you this coming year.
Yep.
It didn't really come up in her presentation, but Lynette has been very involved in discussions and planning on the gateway.
Yep.
And for that, we're grateful that we have your expertise on that.
Absolutely. Happy to be part of that group.
So with the council's indulgence, normally we go next to our department head reports, but with the council's indulgence, I want to ask a question of the mayor. Mayor, I know we have a couple of attorneys on standby waiting to meet with us. Unless I see any strong objection from the council, I am inclined to suspend the remainder of our committee of the whole meeting until and give council more leeway during the regular meeting and adjourn this meeting so that we can go into executive session and not waste everybody's valuable time.
It's a great idea.
I see one hand has gone up. What would you like to say, Councilmember Ellis?
I just wanted to, and maybe this isn't the right time, but to give Council Member Ross to excuse her from the meeting.
We would do that when we open the formal meeting, and we'll do roll call. We'll go into our regular meeting and then adjourn promptly into executive session, if that's okay with them. This is our committee of the whole meeting, and I know I'm kind of playing through a little strongly, but I also feel the burden of people waiting to get our ear, and we will definitely excuse Councilmember Ross when we convene the regular meeting.
Okay.
So
Thank
with no objection from the council, I am going to adjourn the committee of the whole meeting and I turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynette, for being here. This is Mayor Shave. It's Wednesday, November 10th, 2021 at 7:38 p.m. And I call the Aberdeen City Council meeting to order. Public comments are included during the Zoom video meeting. The public was notified that if they wish to speak during the meeting, an email be sent to city clerk at aberdeenwa.gov and indicate if they would like to speak or have the clerk read the comment. If they desire to comment live, they will be called on during the meeting and allowed to speak for 3 minutes. Written comments provided before the meeting have been provided to city council members and will be read into the record up to the current 3-minute limit. Deputy City Clerk, will you do a roll call, please?
Andrews,
Here.
Ellis,
Present.
Francie,
Here.
Gordon,
Frank, you're muted.
Here.
thank you. Kochman,
Here.
Mackey,
Here.
Meskis,
Present.
Richrod,
Here.
Ross, Shaw,
Here.
Short,
Here.
Taylor,
Here.
Shave.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor
Council
Shave,
President Shaw.
I would move to excuse Councilmember Ross.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to excuse Councilmember Ross. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Councilmember Ross is excused.
Mayor Shave.
Council President Shaw.
I move to recess into executive session for 1 hour. Action is anticipated after the executive session. The purpose of the executive session is to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency matters relating to agency enforcement actions, or to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation or potential litigation to which the agency, the governing body, or a member acting in an official capacity is or is likely to become a party when public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency, and to review negotiations on the performance of public bid contracts when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of increased costs, and to consider the selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate by lease or purchase when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of increased price. Action is expected after the session. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to move to recess. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. It is now 7:41 PM and we will reconvene at 8:41 PM. Thank you. I think we're all here. This is Mayor Shave. It's now 8:43 PM and I call a recess over and the meeting back to order. Who moves to reconvene?
I move to reconvene. This is Shaw.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is made and seconded to reconvene the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Council meeting is reconvened.
Mayor Shave.
Yes,
This is Council President Shaw, and I would move to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Second.
thank you. Motion was made and seconded to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Are there any additions or deletions? Seeing none from the council, I would like to add on to special agenda items a report from the Personnel Committee and the Human Resources Director recommending that the City Council approve the request to hire a city engineer candidate who will start at a step 5, range 29, with a start of 20 hours per month for vacation accrual and a vacation bank, starting with 40 to 80 hours a month, which will be negotiated by Rick before final approval.
Catchman, so moved.
Second.
Okay, motion was made, seconded to approve the addition. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That will be added to the special agenda items. So now we'll move on to public comments. Deputy City Clerk, will you please note for the record any public comments that have been submitted?
Mr. Mayor, we have 2 public comments for record. One requested to speak, but he didn't think he could stay late. So Mr. First, if you are here and would still like to speak, if you could raise your hand, we can call upon you. Otherwise, he submitted something to read. I'm guessing he is not here. So far.
That's a Ms. First.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yes.
Ms. First. is still not here. So that'll be public comment number 2. So public comment number 1 submitted via email. Mayor and City Council. Hello, my name is Brent Bryan. I have lived in Aberdeen all my life and had family business for 70 years. I own lots of real estate in Aberdeen, and one of them is close to City Hall homeless camp. I think when I speak my concerns, many other property owners would agree. I understand this is a difficult issue for the city, but the city needs to use some common sense and end it, or at very least put the fence back up so we don't have to look at it. I'm sure if anybody was trying to sell their property, it would be a huge issue for buyer and negative effect on value. I'm sure the banks and City Hall employees and other business in the area would be very happy for it gone, or at the very least a fence, so we don't have to look at it. This problem has to be going on way too long. With kindest regards, Brent Bryan. Then we have public comment number 2. My name is Lee First, and I reside in rural Grays Harbor County. I shop and conduct most of my business in Aberdeen. My comment is in relation to the ordinance adding Aberdeen Municipal Code regarding penalties for violation of the public camping ordinance. In the last 2 weeks, I listened to this council and the county commission declined to take steps to protect our most vulnerable people. I listened to past presentations on funding opportunities that have or will be turned down. I learned that countywide there are 500 to 700 unsheltered people, and at the most 100 beds are available per night for the unsheltered. There appears to be a preference for requiring our most vulnerable people to agree to treatment or meet other conditions before they are offered assistance. I think this is the wrong approach. In fact, low barrier models are proven to be the most effective method of moving people out of homelessness. Issuing a misdemeanor or camping in the wrong location won't help lift people out of homelessness. Steps need to be taken to provide our vulnerable people a safe place to sleep, lock up their possessions, and attend to their hygiene. I hope you'll consider funding micro shelters to the unsheltered. We'll have a chance to take a positive step up and contribute to this community. And those are our 2 public comments for tonight.
Thank you. Next item is Finance Committee Chair Report from Councilmember Catchman.
Good evening. Finance met tonight at 6 o'clock via Zoom. We primarily discussed the budget that was sent out in the amended packet. The budget presented tonight is in alignment with what we have seen the past couple of years in terms of content and detail that we regularly have for a first reading. Based on some of the feedback that was received, additional information was emailed to you this afternoon, including a overview budget by type and a few different formats for people that wanted to see some additional detail and line item type information. We do project to start the year with about 23.8 million in cash. And if you remove the insurance proceeds, it would be about 5.8 million. We're anticipating 19.28 million in revenues and 19.3 approximately in expenditures. Ending cash would be 23.7 million or 5.97 million if we're not including insurance proceeds. One thing that I really appreciate about the budget is that the money related to the fire insurance proceeds is separated out, so it's easy to see where that money is and isn't being used. Within the packet as well, you also notice that there's ARPA funding proposals from the city, primarily for support of police, fire, and EMS, which is one of a handful of allowable expenses. These departments have also played a large role in the city's COVID-19 response. There's also proposed funding for additional technology for hybrid council meetings so we can return to some in-person meetings. And it also accounts for previously approved requests for the water customer service temp and the city servers. Let's see what else. Ending cash, it leaves us in a really good position to make further commitments throughout the year as they are brought to council for consideration. There are going to be 2 workshops held next week, one on the 17th and again on the 18th to further discuss the budget. Tonight, there's also going to be 2 public hearings, which I believe I'm going to start with next on the agenda. So let me roll into those really quick. And pull up the agenda. So for actually, I'm out of order here. Okay, item B, we're going to approve expenditures and payroll. So I would make a motion to approve those items.
second,
Thank you. Motion was made and seconded to approve the expenditures and payroll. Roll call vote, please.
A motion to approve accounts payable in the total amount of $1,520,104.54 and payroll in the total amount of $824,767.99. Check numbers 25309 through 25322 and 75148 through 75321, and wires 1287 through 1289 and 1291. Roll call. Andrews,
Yes.
Ellis,
Yes.
Francie,
yes.
Gordon,
Yes.
Kochman,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Meskis,
Yes.
Richrod,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Short,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, motion's approved.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, item C, public hearings number 1. This is the date set for the public hearing on the 2022 property tax revenues. I move that we open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to open the public hearing. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The public hearing is now open. Was there any response from the public on this public hearing?
No comments from the public, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Hearing that there are no comments, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. The public hearing is now closed.
This is also the date for the first hearing on the proposed 2020 budget. I move that we open the public hearing.
Second,
Did I do that right?
It's in the public hearing, though, is it?
yeah, I didn't think there was a public hearing on the first reading.
No.
The agenda says is the date set for the first hearing on the proposed 2020.
I see that.
Yeah.
Was that a mistake?
I think
Should
so.
be first reading.
I think that was a typo mistake there. The first reading of the budget doesn't have a public hearing.
Then I will withdraw my motion. And then since it's going, the first reading's down in ordinances, so I will address that in the ordinance section. I'm not seeing any concerns. Okay,
Sorry, I didn't notice that sooner.
no, that's okay. That I kind of paused when I said it. So let's move on to reports then. First, we have a report from Finance and the Parks Director recommending that the City Council accept the proposal from Vintage Vehicle Restorations and authorize the mayor to negotiate an agreement to rehabilitate the 2 fire apparatus for an amount not to exceed $245,000. I move that we adopt this report.
second,
Motion was made and seconded to adopt this report. Is there any discussion?
Mayor Shave, this is Shaw.
Go ahead, Council President Shaw.
Following discussion in finance tonight, I would move to amend the report to request additional information, ideas, and recommendations from the museum board regarding fundraising and grant opportunities to reduce the impact on the general fund and the collection settlement.
Catchman, second.
Okay. All in favor of the amendment of the report?
Point of order, we should get a discussion on the amendment first.
Yes.
Is there any discussion on the amendment?
So Mayor, I'd just like to share with the council that there is a little sense of urgency to get on the timeline for this highly qualified restorer. But because we have a ways out, we just wanted to give it back to the museum board to let them know that we're still interested in them working on it to help us reduce the impact to the city funds.
Under discussion, be aware that this 245,000 is does not include shipping costs. Councilmember Andrews.
So being as in the council representative for the museum board, I will tell you what, just based on that, our last board meeting, what we discussed. And yeah, no, shipping isn't included. And it is an overall cost that would be just like when we purchase any other large piece of equipment, it would be installments as the project goes on. And we did discuss at the meeting about different ways that, you know, we could do fundraising once the project is underway. But you know, if that's what the council wants to do, there you go.
Councilmember Ellis.
Yeah, it seems to me that when we're looking at a potential space for the museum that's going to require some investment, this is a lot of money to put into restoring equipment that, although would be fabulous, I'm not sure it's a priority at this time, given that the space comes first in my mind. So if the museum board can find some alternative funding, that would be super helpful.
Let them do it.
Okay, any other?
And just to further clarify, the museum board feels like they need specific authorization from the council to proceed down that path. And so if we're asking for it, then they'll go try.
With that said, maybe we could get Director Barnum to explain that a little better detail. Thank you.
Yes. So currently in the municipal code, let me backtrack. So we're in a unique situation here where we have an advisory board for a museum department that does not have an employee. For example, we have a park board, they have a parks director. So I'm able to do things, you know, like write grants, fundraising, those types of things. The museum board does not have a museum employee to do that on their behalf. The municipal code doesn't necessarily give them the authority to write grants or solicit funds. Well, they can do some fundraising, but grant writing on behalf of the city is not necessarily something that an advisory board usually does. So I think it would be best if the council took action and gave the museum board the authority to seek funding on behalf of the city for something like the fire apparatus. I think that's what you're looking for, Mayor, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Our policy doesn't allow that, and we need to give them the permission to do that.
Would the museum board then be able to get the Friends of the Museum involved as well as in perhaps helping to write something? Or do we have to extend such a change of ordinance to them as well?
I would not recommend that. They are not employees of the city. They have no contract with the city, and I'm not a lawyer. And I'll let Jeff, if he'd like to add anything. But they are just a nonprofit group. It would be the same as would you have Paws of Grays Harbor or another nonprofit writing grants on behalf of the city without some type of contract. I think that we would need to have a contract, but I'll let Jeff Myers.
No, I agree with Stacy that if you want them to represent the city, you have to have a formal relationship established, at least by contract. What I'm wondering is why wouldn't we have the museum board, an advisory board that is authorized under city code, prepare a recommended grant proposal for submission through the mayor's office or by some other department head. It would seem to me that it could certainly be done by the mayor's office as the chief executive of the city.
Yep, I think that would be a great idea.
Well, I've been trying to get the board and the Friends working together for quite some time. You know, there's no reason why the Friends couldn't work in conjunction with the board to find sources and help, but the board would have to have the authority to bring it forward. And, you know, if there's going to be if they're going to be writing grants, they would have the authority over
Well, I think
whatever
as a
source they got the information from.
as a body that recommends action to the city, they can certainly solicit input from members of the public and groups such as the Friends.
Yep.
And then bring forward their recommended proposal to the mayor. And that would be one way to accomplish having them take the laboring oar in developing the grant proposals.
Yeah.
And then proceed that way.
So Mayor,
Yes.
the only thing that I would add, and maybe you might want to take a look at it, Mr. Myers, is that our ordinance specifically says that the museum board is advisory to the council. And so that's kind of what we're trying to have the council give them authority to work with the mayor and staff and do these things. So, but what you're describing is hopefully, well, that would be great.
Well, it's your amendment, Deanne, to the.
And my amendment specifically says to request additional information, ideas, and recommendations from the museum board. How those come to us, whether it's through you or from the board themselves, I don't think that's necessarily material. It doesn't matter.
Just so it's clear that we're authorizing the museum board to seek grants and additional funding.
And yes, but we would definitely, as with all of our other outside boards and stuff that seek grants, we definitely want to know about them before they commit the city to any future spending.
Yeah. Okay. Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. Just for clarification, the granting of powers as we're talking about just pertains to this project, right? It's not a blanket.
Yes.
Okay, because the way it was stated just now, I'm like, I think that's just for this project. So I just like to make sure everything is nice and clear above board.
We're toe dipping. We have a highly qualified museum board that but we're going to toe dip on this one and see where it goes.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. It is amended.
I move we approve as amended.
Gordon, second.
Thank you. Motion was made and seconded to approve the motion as amended. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Can we hear the motion, please?
Thank you, Margot.
Deanne, do you have the motion in front of you?
Well, I have my amendment. The motion is a report to authorize the mayor to negotiate an agreement to rehabilitate the 2 fire apparatus for an amount not to exceed $245,000. And we are amending the report to request additional information, ideas, and recommendations from the museum board regarding fundraising and grant opportunities to reduce the impact on the general fund and the collection settlement.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Oh,
say aye.
Mayor, Councilmember Ellis had her hand up.
Councilmember
Thank you.
Ellis.
Thank you. What if then the museum board doesn't come back to us with anything? Then
Because we don't
where
do
does this
anything.
go? What happens?
The ball is in their court.
So I feel like that might be directed at me. So you as a council are committing that we will spend the 245,000 and pay vintage vehicle restoration, regardless of if the museum board can raise the money or not.
Yep, right.
Plus shipping.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Okay, any other discussion? I'm looking, I don't see any. So all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No,
No,
The motion carries. The ayes have it.
All right, next on the agenda is a report from Finance and the Parks Director recommending that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign the lease with Jim and Barbara McCullough to lease office space for the Parks and Recreation Department for a 24-month period beginning December 21st, 2021. I move
December
we
1st.
December 1st, 2021, clarified. I move we adopt this report.
Gordon, second.
Motion was made and seconded to adopt this report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 3 is a report from Finance and the Parks Director recommending that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign the First Amendment with Rock Creek Project Management Services for an additional $25,000. I move we adopt this report.
second.
Motion was made and seconded to adopt this report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
And item 4 under reports is a report from Finance and the Finance Director recommending that the City Council approve the ordinance to levy the maximum allowed by law. I move we adopt this report.
Gordon, second.
Motion was made and seconded to adopt this report. Is there any discussion?
Is this regarding property taxes?
Yeah, all the
Is that the one?
levy amounts that are up.
This
Uh,
is the
This is what we do at this time, pretty much every year we have to.
Every
renew
year,
this.
yeah, I think I probably ask every year.
Well, because the language is very vague, you know,
Oh.
on the agenda, it doesn't say property tax. It just says maximum the levy amount, levy
It's the
amount.
levy amounts. And I'm glad you asked that question, Margot. That helped everybody. Katie?
Yeah, just if anyone needs additional information, the levy amount is estimated to be an additional just shy of 31,000, slightly subject to change because we have not received final figures from the county at this point.
Councilmember Shaw.
And I'm not sure how important it is, but I think that part of the confusion might be is we're not approving the ordinance with this motion. We're approving the report to bring in the ordinance, which comes up later on the agenda.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of this report, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
And cruising right along. We are down to ordinances, and this is the first reading of Bill 21-10, an ordinance providing for the levy in 2021 upon all taxable property within the city of Aberdeen for 2022 for all municipal purposes authorized by law and fixing the amount thereof pursuant to RCW 84.55.120. I move we adopt.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to approve the first reading of bill number 2110. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
And last thing for finance tonight, thanks everyone for your patience, is the first reading of bill number 21-11, an ordinance adopting the 2022 annual budget for the city of Aberdeen, Grace Harbor County, state of Washington. I move we approve the first or accept the first reading.
Gordon, second.
Motion was made and seconded to approve the first reading of bill 2111. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Catchman.
I would like to make an amendment because within the paperwork that was provided to council, the heading reads that it is the 2022 or excuse me, the 2021 budget. So I would like to amend it to read the 2022 budget.
Thank you.
If someone
Gordon,
second.
Motion was made and seconded to amend the title of this of this first reading. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The title shall be adjusted to read the 2022 budget. Is there a motion to approve the first reading as amended?
So moved as amended. Catchman.
Thank you.
Second, Ellis.
Motion was made and seconded to approve the first reading. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed?
No.
No,
Roll
Let's
call.
do a roll call. I think that I'm not even gonna say, let's just do a roll call. Deputy Clerk, can we do a roll call vote on that item 2 here?
Roll call vote on item 2 under Finance Committee, Bill number 2111, as amended to read the 2022 budget. Andrews,
No.
Ellis,
Yes.
Francie,
Yeah.
Gordon,
Yes.
Kochman,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Meskis,
No.
Rich Rod,
No.
Ross. Disregard. Shaw,
Yes.
Short,
no,
Taylor.
No.
It's 6-5, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. The ayes have it. Is there
That is-
anything else, Chair Katzman?
That's all from finance.
Thank you. Public Works Committee, Committee Chair Meskis.
Thank you very much. Public Works met last night via Zoom, and we had a good meeting talking about our agenda items, as well as some old business. We talked about the TBD and brought up a couple of items for Public Works to look at potentially adding. The TBD is something we do every year, so if you have any street concerns or roads that are looking a little bit worse for wear, make sure our city knows about them. You can contact Public Works or contact any of us on council, and we can get your information over to Public Works so they can add it to the TBD and have it looked into to hopefully get it fixed, because we got to keep our roads up. So anyhow, let's go right into our reports. First, we have a report from Public Works and the Public Works Director recommending that the City Council shall pass a resolution setting the date for a public hearing for ecology funding for the wastewater treatment plant influent screening and conveyance project. I move we adopt this report.
Gordon,
Ellis, second.
Motion was made, seconded to adopt this report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
And next, we have a report from Public Works and the Public Works Director recommending that the Public Works Director shall be authorized to sign an agreement with the Department of Ecology committing to complete the Fairview Reservoir Slope Stability Phase 2 analysis. I move we adopt this report.
Francie, second.
Motion was made, seconded to adopt this report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, and under resolutions, we have a resolution setting the date for a public hearing on the proposed application to the Washington State Department of Ecology for construction funding for the wastewater treatment plant influent screening and conveyance improvements project. I move that we accept this resolution.
Ellis, second.
Motion is made and seconded to approve the resolution. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. The resolution is approved.
And under ordinances, we have the second reading and public hearing of Bill 21-09, an ordinance vacating portions of the unopened street right-of-ways in the Broadway addition to Cosmopolis, consisting of the Polk Street half abutting lots 1-6 of block, or 1 through 6 of block 5, the Polk Street half abutting lots 1 through 3 of block 8, and the Lee Street half abutting block 5, the Lee Street half abutting block 6, the Lee Street half abutting block 7, the Lee Street half abutting block or abutting lot 1 of block 8, and the full alley within block 7. I would move that we open the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made, seconded to open the public hearing. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The public hearing is now open. Deputy Clerk, is there anyone from the audience wants to speak on this matter?
We received no comments and I don't see anyone's with their hands raised at this point.
Okay, thank you.
I move that we close the public hearing.
Ellis, second.
Thank you. Motion was made and seconded to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing is now closed.
And I'll go ahead and move that we adopt the second reading.
Is there a second?
Francie, second.
Thank you. Motion was made and seconded to approve of the second reading. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. The second reading is approved.
And that is all from Public Works.
Okay, thank you. Public Safety Committee Chair Report, Councilman Andrews.
Public safety met this evening at 6:30 prior to the council meeting. It was kind of a short meeting, but we had good discussion. The Aberdeen Fire Department reported on the Fire Service Specialist report for October. They did 8 home visits. They also put smoke alarms in. They had 15 smoke alarms that they placed. They had a ton of, they had 15 911 calls for overdoses. They went into the schools and did fire prevention education with the Aberdeen School District and St. Mary's. They were able to interact and teach 804 kindergarten through third grade students in fire safety principles and what to do if there's an emergency. So that's a great one. Make sure, we fell back this weekend, so make sure you're testing and changing those batteries in your smoke alarms. Data from the NFPA reports in 2014 to 2018, almost 3 out of 5 home fire deaths were caused by fires in properties with no smoke alarms, 41%, or smoke alarms that failed to operate, 16%. So, check those smoke alarms, I've had to take my battery out while I was cooking before, but you got to put it back in, and there was 570 calls in the month of October, and Aberdeen and Hoquiam had more calls than Graham, Washington, in this past month, who has a total of 98 firefighters. So that should tell you something right there. Over on the fire department side, on the police department side, apologize, Chief. We have the third reading of the public camping ordinance amendment, and the police chief noted that several council members called and spoke to him and got information regarding that. So I hope everybody had some good discussions with the chief about get the information. The Aberdeen VIP program was very active in October. We had a planning and training meeting. We participated in the citywide drug take back activity and the annual downtown Halloween spooktacular kids trick-or-treat event. During the spooktacular event, the VIPs employed for the first time the refurbished traffic speed advisory radar board. And they noticed that, people were, slowing down. Most of it was very positive. There's always a few exceptions, but most of it was positive. During the month of October, the VIPs contributed 85 hours. And Police Lieutenant Kevin Darce, last day will be Friday, November 12th. So, stop by and say goodbye to him. We thank Lieutenant Darce for his 29 years of dedication to the citizens of Aberdeen. And we wish him well in his retirement. It's a big deal. So just on the fire side, I'll also mention the RFA. The Regional Fire Authority, right now it is failing by just a small margin, like 13 votes. And so, it's important that everybody makes sure that your ballot was accepted and that, you don't need to make sure your signature is fixed. And so people will be getting phone calls soon to fix those if your ballot was not accepted. If you actually go onto the county's website, the election website, you can actually check the ballot status. I checked mine today and my ballot was returned and accepted. But it also checks the status of your voter registration. And you can even, let's see, I had this a second ago. Okay, now the website, you can request it. If you have time, it will tell you can update your name or address on this site. And if in future elections, obviously it's too late for this one, if for some reason your ballot gets lost, you can request a replacement on that website too. It's the votewash.gov, but there's a link on the Grace Howard County page, just for your information for a future. All righty, let's go to the item on the agenda today. Where am I? I'm over here. Okay. So this is the third reading and adoption of bill number 21-008. 21-08, an ordinance amending Aberdeen Municipal Code section 12-46-050 regarding penalties for violation of the public camping ordinance. I move we accept the third reading and place into final passage.
Second.
Taylor.
Motion was made, seconded to approve the third reading. Is there any discussion? Under discussion, Councilmember Maskis.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to reiterate what I've said the last couple of readings of this. I think this is the wrong direction for us to go on this issue. I'm all for giving our public safety tools to do their job. I don't think this is the proper tool to do this job. So I will be voting no.
Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm concerned about on the 5th whereas that it reads very vague. It says, whereas the city intends not to punish public camping in certain areas when shelter space is unavailable. I would like to see in certain areas replaced by the word designated, so that it references back to something concrete, like maybe it's the map that is currently in use. And then on item number 2, I would like to add, it currently reads, when enforced as provided in section 12.46.045, violation of section 12.46.040A4 shall be, this chapter is a class 4 civil infraction with penalties, and I would propose that we add in penalties and fees not to exceed $25, consistent with RCW, so forth, because people may be charged $25, but then there's potentially an additional 200 or so of fees, of court fees, that could be added. So I would like to propose an amendment that would include those 2 items. And the amendment would change the wording of the 5th whereas to replace in certain areas with the word designated. And then under item number penalty for violation, item number 2, to add in penalties and fees not to exceed $25.
This is Shaw. I'll second. Good luck restating, Mayor.
I know.
I think it's on the tape, though. They'll get it.
Motion was made and seconded to amend the 3rd reading of Bill 2108. Is there any discussion? Tony.
So I have, the first one about the 4th whereas, that one's fine. But the second one about fees and the fine not occurring $25, I'm not even sure we can do that legally. I don't know, we might have to, see Chief Shoemate would like to chime in, so but I'm just concerned that that's not kosher or legal or, okay, go ahead, Chief Shoemate.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, while the code says there is the $25 fee, which council certainly has the authority to assess, the court fee is set by the courts. And in this case, while the fee is $25, the court fee is $27. So technically the infraction is $52. And we are not asking to change that at all with respect to the wording from this ordinance to the amended ordinance. The only part that we're asking to change is to make the camping in the various other locations a misdemeanor offense. So I agree with you. It's the court fee is set by the courts. I don't think the council has any authority over that jurisdiction. And
no, you're correct. We do not. That's why I thought that was outside of our scope. So I'm not sure, Mayor, about we may need the amendment to be changed.
So based on the fact that the amendment is not a legal item that we can move forward on, the motion is out of order. So if you'd like to restate your motion, that's fine.
Thank you.
Attorney Myers has popped on, so he may have something to add.
The proposed amendment may be in conflict with state law. I haven't seen the amendment, so I don't have an opinion on that. And so I would suggest to the author of the amendment that she may want to revise her proposed amendment, but that's up to the author and to the council. I don't know that a motion to make an amendment, even if that amendment is thought by members to be in conflict with state law, whether that makes it simply out of order to propose the amendment. So I think it's a good idea to revise it. So.
Thank you. I'd like to revise my amendment. Mr. Myers, can we revise it so that instead of penalties not to exceed $25, could that be $1? And then let the court fees be 27, so that at most it's a $28 cost.
That's changing the whole thing.
That was beyond the scope of what the amendment was intended to do. And if the council wants to agree to that amendment, I think you can agree to that amendment, but it certainly defeats the purpose of having a civil infraction penalty. And there are a couple of things that you should be aware of. If the court believes that that is an excessive fine, it can take into account the individual circumstances. And I believe under the Seattle versus Long case, it is required to take into account the individual financial circumstances of the person against whom the fine is assessed. That becomes the court's responsibility, whether we set it at 25 or we set it at 1, or we set it at, as in the Long case, I believe it was a $44 fine. So we can't change that mission for the court, no matter what number we assign. And so the homeless person who might be in violation of the camping ordinance and be subject to a civil infraction can always raise that to the court.
I see. So I will change my amendment so that it just pertains to the 5th whereas, replacing the words in certain areas with the word designated.
Deanne, I believe you have to approve that because you
Second.
said.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate
No,
that.
it's okay. Just so you have to agree since you seconded it. Sorry.
Motion was made and seconded to amend the ordinance as described. Is everybody on board? Understand? Is there any discussion? Seeing none.
Sorry.
Councilmember Ellis.
I would just like to get on the record that I think we need to revisit where the approved designated areas should be. And that's something perhaps we could take up at another time.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now I entertain a motion to for the 3rd reading as amended.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion was made and seconded to approve the 3rd reading. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Richrod.
All amendments aside, it's lipstick and eyeliner on the pig. what we have to talk about is what effectively we are doing here is, you can call it a fee, you can call it a tax, you can call it a penalty, whatever you want. It's still, you still have to pay it. And what we're doing is it's a tax or a fee on homelessness, and we're not solving the problem. We're not even addressing the problem by forcing people out of a certain area and pushing them across the street, which happens to be in front of the buildings downtown. And the whole point of it was to get the people get homeless people out of downtown so that they're not sleeping on the sidewalks and in front of places of business. But now we're telling them that's where they have to go. This is bloody ridiculous. And we're not doing anything to solve the problem. And the problem is that we have people without housing who have no place to live. And they, just like every city in the world, and it has been shown through surveys and studies and ad infinitum that providing that housing or assisting to provide that housing is the most effective, cost-effective way of dealing with that problem. And until we're going to deal with the problem, I don't see if there's any point in doing all the rest of this stuff. Finding somebody for doing an action for which there is no alternative just doesn't make any sense at all. So there you go.
Thank you. Councilmember Andrews.
So, I mean, Alan has a good point. But I will say that, yeah, we're simply imposing a fine. We have a wonderful court system. We have an awesome judge who does make arrangements for people to do community service in lieu of fines. She has an amazing program with the Parks Department. So, you know, I understand that monetarily this may be fine, but, you know, the courts have other ways of dealing with it. But we do not have a housing department. Grays Harbor County has a housing department. So, I mean, I really wish people would step on their soapbox and go after the county. But as far as the city of Aberdeen does, we have to give the tools to our police department for them to do their job. So there you go.
Council President Shaw.
I'm going to vote in favor of the ordinance tonight, but I also wanted to tag team on Councilmember Andrews and say we do have an amazing court system that has piloted some programs that probably have more ability than us to get people who think they don't need help or who are declining help to get them into programs we've been presented on this. But until we get them before the judge, she's not going to be able to steer them and come up with a sentence, if you will, that includes some of the assistance we're trying to get to people that think they don't need it.
That's a good point.
Any other discussions? Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. You know, first, I do understand that the fine has always been there. We're not talking about the fine. We're talking about changing the ordinance to make it a misdemeanor if you are camping somewhere that's not designated as a authorized place camp. That's my understanding of the change to this ordinance. It's also my understanding that in the past, the services that can help a lot of these people, you know, out of their situation are highly inaccessible if you do not have an address. If you are not able to be found, these services cannot help you. So all we're talking about is taking somebody that's in a horrible position to begin with, messing with their psyche by dragging them in front of a court, and to what end? To make it so that, okay, you're just gonna camp on the other side of the street now. And you know, when that site is taken away, you're going to have to move down and you're going to have to move down. You know, when does it end? I totally get the county gets the money. So why don't we stop putting our efforts into useless ordinances like this and start putting it into putting pressure on our county and, you know, talking to our state to see what we can do to get our county to actually act and actually do something, because they've had things in front of them and they refused to act on them. So I like I said before, this is the wrong tool for the job. You know, this is not how we solve this problem at all.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Rich Rod.
The courts don't enter into it. I agree with both council members that we have a superior court system, and I don't mean that from a term of being a superior court. I'm talking about we have a really good court system, and Judge Solon is she's a jewel. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about here is we have this ordinance saying that, and this bounces off what Councilmember Meska said. Your address is not the homeless camp behind the city hall. Now your address is the doorway of the Aberdeen Theater. And you're not going to solve or even have any sort of attempt at a solution. This is not going to have any effect on the problem unless you do something about the housing. I mean, right now, the philosophy right now is you're cut and bleeding, and we're not going to help you with that, but we're going to fine you for getting blood on the carpet. So, and Connie's right. We got to go after the county, but there are at least 3 grant situations coming up that are not county dependent, and they're in the works, but it's going to take a while. But punishing people, and there's not going to be that many people. There's going to be a few, and we don't want them downtown because it's unsightly. But forcing them to go downtown, I can't understand what the thought was behind this.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Deputy Clerk, will you do a roll call vote, please?
This is roll call vote for the third reading and adoption of bill number 21-08 as amended. Andrews.
Yes.
Ellis.
No.
Francie.
No.
Gordon.
Yes.
Kochman.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Meskis.
No.
Rich Rod.
No.
Shaw. Shaw.
Yes.
Thank you. Short.
No.
Taylor.
Yes.
That's 6 to 5 in favor, Mr. Mayor. That will be ordinance 6675.
Thank you.
And that's it from public safety.
Thank you. Special agenda items.
Mayor Shave.
Yes, Council President Shaw.
Under special agenda items, we have a report tonight from the Parks Director recommending that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign the third amendment to easement for use of parcel number 014600800901 with a term end date of June 30th, 2022, also known as the Garlic Park easement. I move we adopt the report.
Second. Short.
Thank you. Motion was made and seconded to adopt the report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. The report is adopted. Are you planning on doing the add-on to Deanne? Would you like me to do that?
You're muted, Deanne.
I quit using my notes thing. Is it on there for me to do that? I can certainly.
It's
do
just
that.
on special agenda items.
The Personnel Committee, I'll happily do that. This is good news, you guys. We have an addition of special Personnel Committee met, and we have a report from Personnel and the Human Resources Director recommending that the City Council approve the request to hire a city engineer candidate who will start at a step 5, range 29, with a start of 20 hours per month for vacation accrual and a vacation bank starting with 40 to 80 hours to be negotiated by our Public Works Director. I move we adopt this report.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to adopt this report. Is there any discussion?
So Mayor, by way of explanation for the council, since this was a late add-on, I would just share that this would be an expense neutral. We would be bringing this candidate in at almost at the same pay rate as we were paying our previous city engineer and matching the vacation accrual that he has in his current job. Is that correct, Director Sanger?
That's correct, but we did negotiate for 50 hours of leave on the vacation leave on the books. So
thanks for the update.
Yeah.
Wow, good. Okay.
And
Or any other
and
discussion?
he accepted the offer contingent on council approval.
Great.
Well, I, for one, can't vote fast enough.
That makes two of us.
Yeah,
For real. Mr. Myers has his hand up, Mayor.
I can't, there he is. Mr. Myers.
My question is, the city engineer's position is subject to confirmation by the council. It is,
No,
It's not.
It's not.
it's,
has that been
it's
changed
the,
in the city charter?
it's
No.
the starting rate.
No,
It has to be
the
confirmed.
appointment of a new city engineer under the charter, my understanding is subject to confirmation by the council, as
So
well
it's-
as the pay rate.
Right, so just as you schooled us before, the first thing the council does is set the pay rate. And so I would assume, obviously, Director Sanger's on one step ahead. But when we set out to do this agenda item, we did not have a quote unquote, we were still negotiating. So we just decided to focus on the personnel report, setting the salary, which is outside what the mayor can do himself.
Okay.
And so we're setting the salary, and then I would assume.
By which the mayor could negotiate an agreement with a candidate and then present that candidate for confirmation.
That's how I thought it would play out.
Okay, I was unclear, and that was the purpose of my question, was to seek clarity as to whether or not we were trying to confirm an individual at this time, and the answer is no, this is.
I
just
think we
where-
are.
We were being a little bit coy, unless
No.
Rick wants us to do that, we
I
can't.
think
Oh,
we're trying
we
to,
are now.
we are trying to confirm this individual. At the Emergency Public Works Committee or Personnel Committee meeting, I asked for the ability to make an offer and negotiate with the candidate up to a certain point. He agreed to those terms, which are within the requirements or the job description, and accepted the job. My concern is he's currently employed, and word is going to be out, and it could create some issues for him. And that's what if it's another, he's a public works director in Grays Harbor. So he has my job in another city.
So we're being a little bit coy, and so he can do his due diligence on his end, right?
Well, I think the confusion is that we originally came in to approve the Personnel Committee's recommendation. But we've also been updated that the negotiation has completed on the vacation bank hours. So we could confirm the whole position at this point.
Yes, we could.
Can we do that without naming the individual? Mr. Myers?
I don't think you can confirm an appointee without naming the person.
So we'll have to do that at a later time,
Oh, we'll do it right now.
Right now.
but
His
we
name,
can't,
I can
Name person.
tell you who he is. He's
Yes.
accepted the job. If we're confirming the position right now, then you know who he is. His name is Nicholas Bird, and he is the Public Works Director for Ocean Shores for the last 8 years. A PE, an engineer in good standing, knows all of our grant sources, knows all the admin, all the grant process, WashDOT, local programs, does the same job as I do for the last 12 years. And he was 4 years at McCleary before that.
Can you spell his last name for me, Rick?
BIRD.
Bird.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think then the report probably should be amended to appoint Mr. Byrd as the new city engineer and confirm his appointment subject to the parameters set forth in the report.
I will amend my motion to so state that we are confirming the hiring of Mr. Byrd to be our next city engineer, subject to the report being amended.
And Mr. Mayor, for the record, can you confirm that it is your intent to appoint Mr. Byrd as the new city engineer?
Yes.
I want to make sure that was clear.
I did not realize that he needed to be appointed when the original charter came out. The city engineer was my job, and they expanded it to become a public works director with the city engineer underneath the public works director. So I assumed that my job went with I had to be appointed. I didn't assume, or I did assume that somebody under me would not have to be appointed.
Yeah.
But then we made Chris our city engineer.
And we didn't appoint him. I just hired him.
Yeah.
Well, for the record, we're voting on right now to approve the report from the Personnel Committee on the hiring
of Mr. Byrd.
Of Mr. Byrd under the recommendations in this report from the Personnel Committee.
Ellis, so move. Or second?
Second. So motion is made and seconded to approve the Personnel Committee report and confirm Nicholas Byrd as the next city engineer. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Nicholas Byrd will be our next city engineer.
And thank you, Rick, very much.
Thank you.
Well, I think we just got lucky. So I'm really thankful. We have an engineer 3 position that's been open for over a year. We haven't been able to fill. So I feel really fortunate to fill this with such a good candidate.
It's exciting. It's great. Great news. Okay, thank you. Moving forward, I have an appointment tonight. I would entertain a motion to appoint Bobby McCracken to the Lodging Tax Committee with the term expiring 12/31/21. She's replacing Karen DeMasters.
Rich Rod, second.
No, you'd have to make the motion, Alan.
Oh, I thought he was making the motion.
He can't make the motion. We have to.
Yeah, I was waiting for that discussion too. I shall make the motion. There's expressed. by the mayor.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to approve the appointment of Bobby McCracken to the Lodging Tax Committee. Any
What's
discussion?
the date on that?
The term expires 12/31/21. She's replacing,
In a month.
she's replacing Karen DeMasters. And is there any further discussion? Councilmember Ellis.
My dad once said, if you want something done, you give it to a busy person. So it will be
Yeah,
done.
She's only gonna do it for a month.
That's an interesting comment because that was the first thing I thought of when I saw her name in there. Any other discussion? Councilmember Meskis.
Just that Bobby's probably going to be there anyways because she's usually there to represent DAA. So DAA is going to have to find somebody else to present all their stuff to the Lodging Tax Committee this year. But yeah.
Any other
Only
discussion?
going to be there a year, a month.
What
Seeing
was that,
none,
Margot?
I said she's only gonna be there a month.
What, is that right?
Yeah, that's
Was-
the term of that committee. That committee only lasts up until they get all the applicants in and process them and have them make their presentations. And then at the beginning of the new year, the lodging tax comes to before council, or the lodging tax recommendations come before council. So it's a pretty short committee.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed?
Doesn't make sense.
No opposed, so Bobby is the new lodging tax committee member. Thank you. Moving on to city council comment period. Does there anybody have anything they?
Mayor Shave,
Council President Shaw?
when we abbreviated our council committee of the whole meeting, this is where I thought we might insert anything that department heads wanted us to know tonight, since we didn't give them the opportunity.
Okay.
So, and I am pretty sure that the answer is nobody's, jumping up and down and the screens aren't lighting up with department heads waving their hands, but I just wanted to observe the courtesy. If there's a department head that wants to share something with us, now's the time.
Chief,
Lisa Scott's hands up.
Thank you. I just wanted to make mention really quick that Tuesday, I believe that's the 16th of November, we'll be having a community workshop via Zoom between the hours of 6 and 8. I've sent everybody out the invitation and also the link to the draft comprehensive plan that came out hot off the presses tonight. And this is after all of the community meetings thus far, all of the I'm sorry, I'm lost my mental state here. All of the smaller group meetings we had on housing and economic development and the community engagement meeting with the port and city departments. So this is kind of all the feedback that we've had thus far. It is out now for public consumption. It's on the website. And again, invite you, hopefully everybody can attend that meeting. I know it's also budget time, but we are narrowing down to the end of that. And so we're excited to get this done. So thank you very much. And that's all I had.
Thank you.
Chief Hubbard wanted to speak.
Oh, go ahead, Chief.
So I just wanted to read a statement on behalf of the Aberdeen Fire Department in the city of Aberdeen. I would like to acknowledge that retired Aberdeen Fire Chief Lowell Killen passed away this past Saturday on November 6th. Lowell was a member of the Aberdeen Fire Department for 29 years, and he served as the Aberdeen Fire Chief from January 1985 until his retirement in January 1995. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family.
Thank you. Anyone else on the council? Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you. It was discussed several times, I think, tonight that we need to put the heat on the county commissioners with regard to providing resources for homelessness and housing. And so I wanted to read the letter that I sent last Sunday, November 7th, to all of the county commissioners. Commissioners, the city residents, businesses, and volunteers of Aberdeen have long been bearing the burden of caring for and responding to needs from our homeless population with little support from the county. Not only have there been added financial costs, but homelessness takes a toll on the well-being of our community and economy, and homeless people have died because of the lack of adequate shelter. New housing, especially low-income and affordable units, are in very short supply. The county needs a low-barrier shelter in addition to the cold weather shelters that will only help 33 people at night. With the return of cold, wet winter weather, a low-barrier shelter is desperately needed now. You have federal funds intended to help Aberdeen address this appalling situation, and you have the ability to target those funds in a manner that provides emergency help now. I understand that philosophically, you may not think that low barrier shelters are a good use of tax dollars, but I implore you to recognize we have been without adequate shelters for years, and and people are on the streets dying from exposure. Getting the homeless into shelter for a safe night's rest allows them to get a decent night's sleep so they can function better during the day to take care of basic daily and medical needs. Research and experience from shelters here and elsewhere shows that the more stability people have, the better they are able to address improving other aspects of their lives. Stigmatizing homelessness by denying them proper shelter causes further harm to them and to our already stressed community. As a city council, we have done everything we can do to help the homeless, our business community, and housed residents, some of whom have stopped coming downtown because of the number of homeless people living on our streets and the attendant filth and garbage often associated with this population. This week, council will likely pass the third reading, amending the ordinance that regulates camping on public property to give Aberdeen Police Department the power to fine people who are camped illegally. State law requires Aberdeen to not enforce this penalty when there's no shelter or the shelters are full. Without a recognized low barrier shelters capable of accommodating at least 100 individuals, Aberdeen will have little ability to do more to keep city sidewalks and other rights of way free of campers. Our downtown suffers, our community suffers, and dealing with these situations is hard on city staff. The federal funds come through the county. Aberdeen can't apply directly for this level of assistance. Please do not sidestep this urgent funding need yet again. The challenge is so immense, we need many tools and they are needed now. Fund a low barrier shelter while you create the solution you prefer to see as a preferred longer term approach. One way to address homelessness would be to promote and leverage investment in constructing more housing units and planning that allows for a wider range of housing types. The Grays Harbor Housing Authority owns land on Oak Street in Aberdeen that now has a dilapidated apartment building. Put your staff to work to redevelop this site using federal and state funding to create housing. Set aside some of the land for use as a tiny house village, so many other communities have done. I appreciate and thank you for unanimously supporting the two proposals for cold weather shelters in Aberdeen. The 33 beds will be helpful, yet fall short of the hundreds of beds and housing units needed. Please make this a top priority. So that was my letter, and I would just invite my colleagues on city council and the public to also get in touch with the county commissioners and let them know we need their help. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Andrews.
So for Alan and Tiesa and Liz, my time on the council's drawing to a close here, but there is a committee, or there used to be, where all the county leaders got together and talked about this subject, and it's been happening for years. And when I worked in town, I was able to attend once in a while. So if you guys want to get involved, that's the kind of stuff you guys should try to get involved with. It lets your voices be heard. It puts pressure on the county, unless Aberdeen wants to take their portion of that title tax fund and develop a housing department, which is rather complicated and probably isn't the best idea for Aberdeen, but you know, you got to put pressure on the people who do have control. So, you know, that's, people always blame us because we're the low hanging fruit. Aberdeen gets the blame for everything because we're the center of everything, even though we're not the county seat. But just my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Before, go ahead, Alan.
I got a whole list of stuff, but I'm going to condense it. First of all, a real heartfelt shout out of congratulations or whatever it might need to be, a girl, I guess, to Lisa, Lisa Scott, who informed me earlier this week that we had set a budget goal, income goal, revenue goal through building permits, and we've blown through that. That's out in the dust somewhere, and we've got our building permits are just going crazy, and we've got a lot more money than we planned for, and that's because we have a community development staff. Well, one person anyway. That's a real an extensive amount of work to take care of all those, because she has to do all that. So I just wanted to kudos Lisa for doing all that. That's been great. People are moving here and setting up businesses and fixing houses and all that kind of stuff. I do want to mention, because I told Bobby McCracken that I would, Winterfest is coming up on 4 December. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's going to happen, and rather than go through all of this stuff, there's all kinds of fun activities, gingerbread house contest. There's going to be a breakfast at the Game Day Sports. That's going to be free for 12 and under. If you're 13 or over, then you have to make a donation. It's not a fixed price. But go to winterfestaberdeen2021.com. All of the stuff is laid out right there. There's going to be a whole bunch of stuff going on. And I wanted to mention that because if it's anything like Summerfest or the downtown trick or treat, there's going to be a lot of people doing a lot of stuff. There's prizes and all kinds of stuff going on. I guess the only bit of cold water on all this is I don't personally think we've had enough time to really analyze the budget for this next year. At least I haven't. I just got the budget documents from the finance director today. So but I understand there's going to be 2 workshops coming up next week. But I hope we can take full advantage of that. And so I'm going to, that's all I'm going to present.
Okay, anyone else?
I just,
go ahead, Josh.
okay, I just want to briefly mention that I had some time today and I cleaned up 3 bags worth of garbage over on the west end of the East Aberdeen walkway. 1 bag of recycling and 9 syringes. But it's a long mention. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Lastly, before we go, if you've noticed, the flag in front of City Hall is at half-mast in honor of former Fire Chief Lo Killen, and also Ocean Shores Mayor Crystal Dingler, who passed away this past weekend. Crystal Dingler was played a big part in this whole community, and not just Ocean Shores. She was involved in just about everything and was a really a great person. She's going to be missed. Lowell, I remember Lowell when he was fire chief, and I also remember all the help he did out at Wishkah Fire Department when we were struggling with this or that or the other. He was a great help. So the flag has been at half-mast and be at half-mast this whole week. So that's it. Anything else? Our Debbie's not here tonight, so Margot.
Can I? May I?
You bet.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to adjourn. If there's no objection, we are adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Night,
Good night.
everybody.
Night.